This week, they have fought beside man throughout history.
Dogs have incredible senses, and we're able to take advantage of them in combat.
And nowhere were trained dogs more important than in Vietnam.
It was a guerrilla war. The enemy was putting up ambushes, and Americans were walking right into them.
How did these dogs of war save lives?
So a lieutenant comes up and he says, "You guys just won yourself a Bronze Star today for saving half of my platoon." And I just felt like, damn, you're a good dog.
The unsung heroes of combat. Just one of the stories that happened this week in history. Welcome to This Week in History. I'm Josh Binswanger. For the next hour, we'll look back at the people, places, and events that made history this week. Our first story involves a German shepherd named Nemo, who died of natural causes this week in 1973. But Nemo wasn't just a pet. He was a veteran of the Vietnam War with a reputation for holding his ground. As we're about to see, Nemo and countless other dogs have played a vital but sometimes forgotten role in combat throughout history.
The jungle's very thick. It's musty. It's very humid. Your eyes are pretty much glued and your ears are tuned in to whatever you can hear. The soldiers are in a hunt mode. And that's probably the scariest part because you don't know what's out there. You don't know what to expect.
In this war, the rules are all different. No foxhole to hide in. No front line to fight for. Instead, there is just jungle and the long, slow advance through it. With each mission, there has to be someone, a trailblazer, whose lot is to lead the way and walk first in that line. Those forgotten heroes of the Vietnam War were often a breed apart.
Very few people even know dogs were used in Vietnam. Dogs are amazing animals, and they can do a number of different jobs for soldiers in the combat area, and basically, in the course of it, saved many American lives.
All told, some 4,000 dogs served in Vietnam for the United States. It is estimated that at least 10,000 men owe them their lives.
Once you've served with an animal in a war like I have, you carry that for the rest of your life. They were courageous and loyal, and they just worked for, for food and water and love. I mean, what more do you want?
As long as they've been domesticated, dogs have accompanied men into battle. The ancient Greeks outfit mastiffs in spiked armor and sick them on their opponents. The conquistadors used dogs to conquer the native peoples of the New World. And Napoleon enlists poodles to offer companionship for his men. Dogs are messengers, guards, and mascots during the Civil War. With the First World War, dogs become even more vital to the military.
Dogs have incredible senses, and we're able to take advantage of them in combat. Their sense of smell is thousands of times better than humans. They can hear the wind blowing through a booby trap. And they have eyesight that, especially at night, is far greater than our own.
During the Second World War, the U.S. Army accepts more than 30 breeds into its training program.
Dogs were quite useful in the Pacific area, where there were jungles and limited visibility, and basically ambushes set up for American soldiers. The dog was a 4-footed radar able to detect the enemy presence.
In the Korean War, one study concludes that on the front lines, dogs cut casualties by more than half. But never are the skills of the war dog more tested than in Vietnam. Now America is facing a different kind of enemy altogether.
It wasn't a conventional war. It was a guerrilla war. The enemy was putting up ambushes, and Americans were walking right into them.
German shepherds are singularly suited to jungle warfare. They're smart, intimidating, and can adapt to the heat. The more aggressive animals are trained as sentry dogs to guard against intruders. Dogs that are more passive become scouts, blazing the way for whole platoons. Lesson 1 for scout dog Clipper was learning to recognize his master, Private John Burnam.
He has to learn how you smell. He has to learn the pitch of your voice and what your face looks like. It's repetition. Patience, repetition, 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 to the point where the dog does it automatically.
Burnam taught Clipper how to detect the enemy from afar. But the clincher would be to scope out booby traps.
I'd tell him, Clipper, now don't go through this tripwire, because if you do, we'll both die. I said, Clipper, now listen to the twang, ting. And I'd tap it on his nose. I said, see that, Clipper? Smell that? And I'd do the same thing over and over with him.
Sit.
Clipper was just beginning to catch on when he and Burnam were recruited for a 2-day mission deep into enemy-occupied territory.
And then all of a sudden, boom! I hit the ground, I take my dog down.
A booby trap severely injures a man. Burnam moves his dog to the head of the column. Clipper has never been tested in the field, and he is not responding with any of the deliberate signals he was taught.
And I'm watching the dog, and he's not giving me any strong alerts, and I can't see anything because all this grass and weeds are growing up all around these trees. And then all of a sudden he hesitates. He sort of alerts a little bit to the left, and then just starts walking to the right a little bit. And then all of a sudden, about 20 more yards, he sort of stops a little, and he starts going left. That's okay, so I kept moving out. I'm just watching him, because I don't know what the hell I'm stepping on.
On an elaborate zigzag course, at the whims of a dog, a platoon of some 25 men slowly make their way back to base. All along, Burnam can't be sure his next step won't be his last.
So Lieutenant comes up about the 4th guy back, and he says, hey, well, thank you, Private Burnam. He says, that was outstanding with your dog finding those tripwires. I said, what?
As it turns out, with each shift, the troops behind Burnam had discovered plenty of tripwires Clipper had found.
And the lieutenant says, you guys just won yourself a Bronze Star today for saving half of my platoon. And I just felt like, damn, you're a good dog. I love you, man, you know. I was so excited that he saved lives that day, and my life, too.
Scout dogs are not the military's only secret weapon on 4 legs. 35 years ago, a dog named Nemo proved the value of sentry dogs. December 4th, 1966. Nemo and Airman Second Class Robert Thornburg are on patrol at the Tanzanite Air Base when the dog alerts. Something is in the brush. 60 or so Viet Cong lying in ambush. Nemo attacks. Thornburg takes a hit, but Nemo keeps charging.
A sentry dog does not know the term retreat. If you don't give them a command to out, they're going to just continue to go and maul and maul and maul, and that's what happened.
Even a gunshot in the face doesn't stop Nemo. His attack buys Thornburg the chance to radio for backup. By the time help arrives, Nemo has crawled back to his master to protect him.
He survived, and he came home, and he saved somebody's life, so he was a hero.
Nemo had shown what a war dog could do.
Our technology hasn't replaced the capabilities of the dog at all. Much of the training has remained the same throughout the 20th century and into the 21st century.
Today, at Quantico, Virginia, the Marine Corps' latest canine recruits are still being primed.
Stay.
The techniques to train them have hardly changed, but the kind of battle they'll be fighting has, with the war against terrorism.
In peacetime, all of our dogs here are just for law enforcement functions. They are utilized in the case of war.
That distinction has now blurred. In the front lines of this conflict, America's public spaces must be guarded.
Stay.
And that takes a dog with double the credentials. They are sentry and scout rolled into one.
All of our dogs are dual certified. That means that they do both patrol work and detection work. The first one is patrol work, which is just basically we use them to help us if we have to apprehend somebody without going to deadly force. And we also do explosive detection.
Dogs trained here at Quantico can serve until age 10 or more. In 2000, a law was passed to facilitate the adoption of retired military working dogs to qualified people. The dogs of Vietnam were not so lucky. On March 15, 1973, Nemo dies on home soil, and he was one of the fortunate few. Of the 4,000 who served, only some 200 dogs come home from Vietnam. Classified as expendable equipment, the others are either put to sleep or left behind to an uncertain fate.
I don't think we can measure the emotional tie between the handler and their dog. You can go 20, 30 years after Vietnam, and a handler may have forgotten the name of the buddy he served with, but he always remembers his dog.
Because it's like your wife, it's like your brother, it's like your left arm, your backup, your partner. Why can't they be heroes too? I think they are heroes, and they will always be a hero in my heart.
The most decorated dog in U.S. history was a bull terrier mix named Stubby. During World War I, the U.S. Army didn't officially use dogs, but Stubby was smuggled to France as a mascot. It's a good thing he was. One night his barking woke up a group of American soldiers in time to save them from a poison gas attack. Stubby received a special gold medal for his efforts and an audience with President Woodrow Wilson.